Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here's your host, Bralynn Newby.
Awesome. So, you guys, welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. We are rocking and rolling. This is Daryl, Crawford-Marshall. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for you to be here. You know, I know I asked you to come on the show probably, a year ago. I don't know when that was, but I heard you talking about business from a spiritual perspective. And I'm like, this guy has got to share this with my peeps. So Daryl, welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you today. It's very exciting.
Thank you. Now, first of all, just, share your story of how you got into business and blending the spiritual into the business and how you see it from a different perspective than normal humans.
Yep. Love to. Well, I think what happened, I don't think what happened. What happened was this. So first of all, let me just put this out there. I don't have a business. I don't actually have a business that I run myself. I do some consulting. So I guess that's consulting in itself is a business. But with regards to a kind of when you say the word business to a lot of people, they think in one particular way. And so what happened was with me was a number of years ago, I was in a conference. Now, I used to do a lot of prophetic ministry. I did prophetic ministry all over I have done kind of all over the world. But what happened was that I was in a conference a number of years ago, and there was a guy in the conference, and he called out a prophetic word, and he said, Daryl, you're going to be a prophet to the business world and to government. And I remember that I was doing a lot of stuff in local churches, in conferences, and I was really kind of into all of that, all of those, really building up the body in the things of the prophetic. My biggest desire is that people would hear the voice of the Lord. I mean, in everything I do, that is the paramount thing. I'm always going after whatever it looks like for people to be able to be lined up and to be better attuned to what the Spirit is saying. I feel like that's really everything. That's my whole MO. And so I was enjoying doing that in churches and local churches. I was actually based in Sydney at the time. And what happened was, which was really interesting, is that as soon as he gave me this word, I walked away and I was like, wow, that's really good. But really, I could see myself doing stuff with government. I could see that. But with regards to business, I can't see that. I don't know what it is to be a prophet to the business world. And to be honest, it didn't bring me any joy whatsoever. I thought, well, who would want to be a prophet to the business world? That sounds really boring. I don't want to sit at these, at round, corporate tables, and it just didn't fit in me at that stage. It was really funny. So then what happened was that I realized that what had happened was that my understanding or my inner world or my mindset was too small to receive what the Lord was actually saying. So what happened was that I went away from that meeting, went out to a coffee shop. And as soon as I came into a coffee shop, I was standing in a line in a coffee shop. And I was just waiting to order a cup of coffee. This is probably about 20, 30 minutes after I'd received this word. I'm standing in a coffee shop. And suddenly I look at the person in front of me, and the Lord speaks to me and says, the person in front of you is an independent business owner. I'm going to give you a download for his business. Now, I've never had this before. So this is 30 minutes after I've received the word. So I'm standing in this line. And he said, just go and connect with him and just ask him if he's a business owner. So I went over to him and I said, hey, how are you doing? Do you run a business? And he said, and he was a bit shocked, a bit taken back, you're in a coffee shop. And he said, I actually do. Yeah, I'm a business owner. And as soon as I looked at him and as soon as I asked him if he ran a business, I saw a vision of a chessboard above his head. And the chessboard actually had people on it. And I saw literally a woman and a man and all these different people being moved around this particular chessboard. And I saw that on the chessboard, it was like it was superimposed, that there was like office spaces on the chessboard. So there was like different offices on the chessboard, and literally that people were being moved from one office into another office. So I said, hey, I just want to talk to you about something. I really believe that you're in a time of restructuring. And then I gave him a prophetic word about the people that were closest to him, because I saw him on the chessboard, and where they needed to be moved around the company. Well, he was blown away. It looked like he'd seen a ghost. He said, how do you know this? We're in the middle of a restructuring. This is and I said, this is basically your 2IC. This person's going to be moved over to this thing. And it was all coming from a download and all coming from a vision. Well, within a couple of minutes, he's given me his card and he's going, please connect with me. I need to, and he said, what is this? And I said, well, actually, I'm a Christian and I believe that I receive information from the Spirit of God for people. So anyway, so that was the beginning of what actually became one of the major parts of my life. And so now what I would say, I work very happily as an elder at Field of Dreams Church with a great team with Todd and Rachel Weatherly and my wife, and an amazing team there. And we do so much stuff. And in conjunction with that, the thing that I do most after that is actually I have a massive clientele with regards to a business consulting. So what happened was that it became so prominent in my world, this prophetic business consulting, which is really, really cool. So what that looks like now is that I spend time with people and God will a lot of the time give me a download about something that he's transitioning or something that he is realigning in their business. And I have an opportunity to both prophesy into businesses, both great and small, it doesn't matter what size, but also I really have an opportunity to help line people up to the original design that God has for them in the area of business. And that is my that's my heart, because why do something that God isn't on? And that's been my biggest thing for many people that I connect with. So anyway, so that's a little bit of the story, a little bit of the introduction, and that's a little bit about how I got into what it is to prophetically consult into businesses.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. And I love that alignment with what business are you supposed to be in, and which one really is on your destiny scroll, and which one is connected to all of the stories of your past and your experience, because you typically don't just and I get this all the time, that the MLM people, oh, it sounds like a good one, I'm going to make a business out of this. It's like, well, how is that connected to how God designed you?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, brilliant. So you still do government and business, because those are the two big mountains that we really just need to take back to the Lord, right?
And that's it. So I prophesy, not so much in this season, but in previous seasons, very much into relatively high political gates and speaking to various senators and other things. And again, exactly the same thing, helping people align to the word of the Lord. So it's really, so as a prophet, my desire is that people will be lined up to what God is speaking, and also, as I just said before, to their original design, and really what it looks like to transition them back and put them into right alignment. And whether that is a political figure or lining someone up to the word of the Lord in that season for the particular nation they're looking after, or whatever, or the nation they're connected into, whatever that looks like, it's really the same MO. And what's so interesting is for so long, I just did this with individuals. I just prophesy over them, help them realign into and I didn't have to learn a new modality. So I just did it. It just transitioned and became about nations, government, and business. Whereas before it was just, and not just because it was just as important, but it was for individuals in the local church and just helping them line up to what the Lord was saying. So
brilliant. And so how long have you known or been prophetic, or known that you had this gift, or did it just come on you, or did you grow up that way, or?
Well, no, I started to, I was always sensitive to the realm of the spirit, but I think I was only activated, really properly activated. I got saved by seeing an angel. So when I saw an angel, I knew that, I ended up giving my heart to the Lord when I was 21, and then I kind of played around until I was about 22. But what happened was that I always knew that there was a supernatural dimension, and I'd always been very, very interested in that. I heard an angelic chorus while I was an unbeliever, actually in my living room. And in conjunction with that, as I said, saw an angel. And these were the things that actually led me into kingdom reality and led me into giving my life to Jesus. And so because of the nature of my introduction, the things of the supernatural, the things of the invisible world, the things of the kingdom were never separated or far removed from my experience of being a Christian. They were always completely intertwined and married through every part of it. And so because of that, one of the things that the Lord spoke to me, and not because of that, but one of the things the Lord spoke to me as I started to launch into ministry. I was in full-time ministry after a year of being saved. And then I've been in full-time ministry for 17 years now as a pastor. And so, and not just as a pastor, but as I've always worked as a pastor, but I also work as a prophetic minister. And one of the things that the Lord spoke to me was, he said that part of your design is to swing the pendulum hard into the things of the supernatural to help bring a level of correction back into the body of Christ, because the body of Christ was not including the things of the supernatural, the things of the angelic, the things of the prophetic, I believe, at the level that the Lord desired for them to engage, because when you engage in the spirit, things change. But if you engage everything in the natural consistently, then you know that you are not going to be able to shift things effectively. You know, we're still in a place where we're asking God to fix everything. And God's saying, why don't you fix it? I've given you all authority. I've given you access. You're already in heavenly places. And we're constantly saying, God, fix my business. And he's like, oh my goodness. Like, it's nearly like, I'm not saying he's like, oh my goodness, but I'm saying it's nearly like we ask the Lord consistently over the years to help us with things that we're holding in our hands the keys for already. And so we're saying, God, open the door. And he goes, you got the key. God, open the door. The key's in your hand. Oh, please open the door. The key is in your hand. And it's nearly like God sometimes has to grab our hands and put it into the keyhole. And he's like, you had it all along, you know. So anyway.
Oh, wow. So tell us a little bit, give us some stories about how you have landed what you see in the spirit realm into the natural, because that seems to be the cry of a lot of people's hearts right now, is like, why are we not speaking and the wind dies down? Why are we not functioning as the kings and priests and sons that we are designed to be yet?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is to do with, now, obviously I only see in part and know in part, so I don't know everything by any stretch of the imagination. But over the years, one of the things that I think has probably struck me most around this particular topic is that people say a lot of the time, and I'm not pointing my fingers at anyone, I'm just saying as a pastor, you get to meet a lot of people. People say a lot of the times things that they don't actually believe. And so what happens is that we understand in the kingdom, everything is built on the internal reality and the internal seat that you actually posture yourself on. So let me give you an example of that. Let me explain what I mean by that. A lot of the time we come into a place where we think about the things of the kingdom, and the way that we think about them isn't, I believe, founded on the correct biblical truth about how something operates. So Jesus talks about if you believe in your heart, and if you believe in your heart constantly, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed. Now, faith is substance. And so, for example, people talk a lot about I'm just going to decree into something. But the reality is that their internal world doesn't believe it. So it's all very well for your mouth to say something like a place of, vain repetition. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. But internally, I'm giving you an example, but internally, they're not in a place where they actually have the substance or the faith, or really at the core of who they are. They don't actually believe it. And then sometimes when people do believe stuff, they just speak it out, but actually they're in a place of fantasy. So this is why I'm constantly in a place where I'm trying to help people draw back to the right alignment of who God says they are, but also so that they can think of themselves in a place of sober judgment. And I think that is the thing that has prevented people from being able to, it's about alignment, but also sober judgment of not just what they're called to, but the season that they're in too. And I want to give an example of that, if that's okay, just briefly, because I think it will really help. So many years ago, the Lord spoke to me, and I've spoken about this on one of the intensives I run, but the Lord spoke to me, and I was praying for finance, and I just remember praying for a lot of money, and I said, Father, I thank you right now. And I wasn't praying it for myself. I was just Father, I contend. And I think I started at $1 million or whatever else. And I was just starting to go, Father, I thank you that there will be, and because my desire was completely pure in that, because I want to see the kingdom manifest and move forward. So there wasn't in any way any kind of selfish ambition in the prayer. But what happened is I started to pray and started to decree, and the Lord spoke to me and he said, Daryl, how much money do you think you have faith for? And I was like, wow, well, and I said straight away, $1 million. I've got faith for $1 million. And the Lord said this to me. He said, no, you haven't. And then I was like, okay, I've got faith for 700,000. Now, I can't remember exactly the increments that I ended up going down, but let me say this, it started out $1 million, then I think it went maybe to either 700 or $500,000. And then the Lord said, you haven't got faith for $500,000. And I said, okay, $250,000. And I just started to pray. It was in a place of prayer because I'd been praying, as I said, for the things of finance, because I felt the Lord put on my heart, I want you to pray for finance. And so I started to pray, and he said, you haven't got faith for $250,000. Now, at this stage, I was like, but I'm a man of faith. I'm supposed to be a prophetic guy. I'm supposed to be into all this stuff. And by the time I have faith for $250,000, and this is going to shock some of the listeners right now. So anyway, so then I started to pray, and I said, okay, God, okay. And then I kind of just get, I go, all right, I've only got faith for $100,000. And the Lord said this to me. He goes, you haven't got faith for $100,000. And I was like, okay. Now, this is a number of years ago. So I just, not that I'm at $1 million. I don't know if I'm at $1 million now, but then what happened was that then I was like, okay. And then I started to and then I'm like, okay, Lord, 50,000. He goes, you haven't got faith for 50,000.
Oh.
And then now I'm starting to go, oh my goodness. And I said, what is this? And he said, your measure of faith that you have now is for $10,000. That's all your measure of faith is. You think that you're at $1 million, but actually, and this is really good for the people listening today, but you're actually at $10,000. Now, this is really interesting. So I started to realize, it says that don't think of yourself more highly than you ought, but according to the measure of faith that you've been given. So this is really, it says, think of yourself soberly. I believe that I hadn't been in a place of sober judgment of where my internal world was actually at. And in the area of business, this is absolutely vital, because otherwise we start to build things in fantasy that never manifest. So what happened was that I started to go, okay, well, what's the lining up? The lining up is the word of the Lord. So I said, okay, what do I, and he said, you've got faith for $10,000. So I said, Father, I thank you right now for $10,000. Remember that he had prompted me to start to pray for finance. I said, I thank you for $10,000. I thank you that it will come in. And I thank you that I can, and I can't remember what I said that I would do with it, but I'm sure that there was some for me and some for something else. And, I can't remember exactly. But anyway, the next week, someone gave me $10,000. So that was what I had a measure of faith for. And that's really interesting. And that really started to line up, and this is answering your question, that really started to take me on a journey of what my internal world actually has capacity for. And when your question was with regards to the spirit world and how you land something, and I believe that the first part is that you have to understand where you are internally before you start going after everything, because then you can actually go after the things that you actually have a measure of faith for, and you can create the substance for those and see those things land from the things in the spirit or the things that you've heard from the Lord into the natural.
That is so good. So good. And the business, the challenge that we're doing now, the intensive, this is going to be like drum roll, please, because this is the first time I'm announcing it. It's all Daryl's fault, guys. It's all his fault. No, that's all really, really good. You're going to be glad it's his fault, not from me, believe me. But you had said something when we were having a chat that really just like locked it in for me. And it was all about that internal structure. Because just to set this up for the people who haven't heard me say this before, and I know most of you have, establishing your business is like declaring war in the spirit realm. You are going out to take territory. You must be prepared. You must be covered. And you can't go about this willy-nilly. Now, as you can see, you guys, in the world right now, crazy evil stuff is being revealed. We have got to get our spiritual boots on and go for it. We have got to take this territory. How we're going to combat all of this evil takes money. And in order to fund it, we have to be the business owners who create the wealth that can fund cleaning up all of this stuff, building the kingdom, funding the projects that will do this, rescuing the trafficked children, whatever the call of your heart is, it takes money. We have got to stop messing around and get our internal world structured so that we can handle this wealth transfer that's coming, the great reset, the great awakening, whatever you want to call it, it's coming. And the way that God is going to funnel the wealth to us in the kingdom is through business. But he's not going to do it if we're not ready. Like Daryl said, if we don't have that internal structure, it's not going to happen. So we're creating this 6-week, it's actually 7 weeks because we kind of have a prep week to get your environment ready, but it's a 6-week really hitting the ground hard intensive. I'm calling it quantum capacity. Quantum being the science behind the unseen, because there is a science to it, and we're working in the unseen realm. We're working on the inside, guys. So it's all about alignment, knowing who you are and positioning, being where God is on your assignment journey, and building the structure inside you, getting rid of the structures that were built on patterns of behavior and all of these thought processes and things like that, that were built on lies, and building the things that God really has for you to be able to sustain and support the responsibility of your business. And then the last bit of it is increasing the capacity of your heart. So, Daryl, I am so dang thrilled that you're on board with me with this. You're
very excited.
Just beyond excited that you're coming on board, and you gave me this idea, and then God like locked it in, okay, and said, this is what's going to happen. And the other beautiful, amazing woman we're partnering with, Marion McLeod, you guys will see her next week on Spirit-Centered Business. I actually recorded with her, but she and Daryl have been talking, and it's just going to be great. I just think God is going to do some amazing things, transformational things inside people so that their business can transform. Quantum leap it.
I really see that there's going to be, look, if you can put just a very simple umbrella over something like this, it is going to realign. That is what it's going to do. It's going to realign people internally. It's going to and as that happens, things externally will realign. I think that there's going to be incredible transition for many people. I think that for some people in business that do this, who already have a business, it will really lend to acceleration of expansion and acceleration of territory taking, as you just said. I think for others that maybe don't have a business, maybe you're watching this now and you've been stirring in the area of, you know that there's a spirit of the entrepreneur in you and around you, and you're like, oh, I just really want to jump in. I believe for those people, it will give them the internal structure that they are going to require to be able to even step into the first stages of that. And I believe that for everybody, there will be a supernatural component that is released in and through their world as a result of them just turning their hearts to something like this. Because it's, again, if you don't mind me saying it, it's not these intensives or your intensive. I don't think that it's really about the person doing the intensive. It's more about them doing intensive with the Lord in the area of business. So it's a focused time where they can dedicate that time and say, God, whatever I need to do to get myself ready to really experience the increase that you have predestined for me to walk in, I'm prepared to do that. And I'm going to do that, first of all, by giving you this time so we can correct or realign or redefine anything that isn't quite lined up the way that it needs to be in order for me to function that way.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I've been, you know how we teach things that we need to know, right? I've been working on it, like on myself, like, wow, there's a lot of surrender that needs to happen. a lot of laying down of how smart I think I am, and how,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
the ideas that I have around it, because I'm like, I'm so done trying to do things my way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's doing things totally different now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He has proven to me, and it's quite a story, but I've been proven that when you do everything absolutely perfect the way the world does, it still doesn't work if God's not in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
and I don't want to go down that road ever again. And there's a lot of things that we don't know that we don't know, right? And so this is the time to just fess up to what we do know and let God show you what else needs to be cleaned up. And
Yes.
it's going to be so good. It's an investment that of our time and of our focus, and in a sacrifice of maybe sleep if we get up early or whatever needs to happen. You know, we're going to be taking communion every day. There's like you had, what are the criteria for you to move? There's things you need to add in your life and things you need to subtract from your life, let go of. So we're going to be doing that the same way that you taught in the prophetic intensive. You know, there's challenges that we're going to be doing all along the way. We have live Zoom activations, and depending on who we have, and I was talking about this with Marion, if we've got a lot of people from down under and you guys are on the other time zones that we can't, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out how that you can be there live. I will do extra stuff on a Sunday night, which is your Monday or whatever, you know, because I really want to do these things live, activations, like literally step into the spirit realm and do some stuff, you know, with everyone live. So that'll be really exciting every week.
That's awesome. Let me say, I just want to say a brief thing just on what you were talking about. The Lord was just previously, you were talking about not doing things my way and actually allowing kind of this dimension of the reality of what it looks like to give it to God, the surrender to his process. And before we came on today, I was in prayer, and the Lord gave me a scripture from 2 Kings chapter 5, and it was about Naaman when he goes to get healed by the man of the Lord. By the man of God. And it says in verse 10, and Elisha sent a messenger to him saying, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again, and you shall be clean." And Naaman really struggles with this thing that the man of God has asked him to do. And then even his servant said, well, if he had asked you to do something much greater, wouldn't you have done that? How much more so if it's something so simple? And I feel like that is, and then anyway, the whole story is that, you know, he goes and washes 7 times in the Jordan, and then he's healed. But as a result of the word of the Lord from the man of God, Elisha, that was designed to bring his healing and his solution. And this is really interesting. And just what you said before, I feel like a lot of I feel like in the season, not just around business, but in this season, God is bringing it back to his way. And so it's no more Frank Sinatra. I do it my way. It's far more about, you know, and some of the times he's going to give us things in business, and maybe through this intensive, he's going to speak to people specifically, or maybe in your world, in other parts of your world. And I feel like the Lord is saying that some of the way that we think he thinks, I think that we think, okay, let me rephrase that. I think that we think every time he communicates to us, there needs to be a level of complexity there. God isn't, I don't feel like he's like that. Now, he puts things out there for us to research, and he speaks sometimes in sayings that we need to discover, and we need to, we seek deeply into the things he says, and things start to unfold. But one of the reasons he does that, I believe, is because he wants to enlarge our capacity. Yeah. But what's really interesting is he doesn't make it complicated, and he never gives you something that you don't have the ability to do. That would be a disaster. Imagine he said, go and do this, and you don't have the ability or support to do that. So I just feel like even with this intensive, for some people that jump on there, it might actually be, you might end up at the end of it getting 4 or 5 words from God, or alignment things happening that are so simple and were just in your face all the time. Yeah. But God is so like that. sometimes I've worked with businesses before, and I said, what's the word of the Lord? And I'm like, the business is done. God's saying it's time to let go. And they're like, no, and I said, and I've said to people, so that's the word of the Lord. Then they'll get me alongside them again one time. And then they'll say, hey, what's the word of the Lord? And I'll go, how's the business? So how did you go with the transition of that business when you let go of it? And they said, no, I didn't do that. And I go, okay, we're done. I cannot minister to you past that. That was the word of the Lord. And that's people really struggle. Sometimes it's simple. Now, I'm not saying that's for anyone on here, but what I'm saying is that sometimes it's not complicated. Alignment, or a lot of the time, is literally God saying, why don't you do this? It's something that you can easily do. And then as a result of you implementing that, then you will find that divine alignment happen. And then, that new season awaken very quickly after that.
Right. Yeah. And it's just on that same note, sometimes the thing you're looking for is 3 steps away. He can't give you 3 steps away until you take the 1 step away.
Yeah, it's good.
And then the 2, you know what I mean? So isn't it just like us to just like, I just think of a 2-year-old. I do it my way. Oh my goodness. Well, you have a lot of just brilliance to bring as far as, I don't know, designing business from the heavens. Just I've heard you talk with Christian Duvall and Dan Duvall, and you just bring a lot of stuff. So why don't you share some other, it doesn't necessarily have to be about building the capacity or the intensive or something like that. I just want people to get to know how much brilliance you have in you.
That's very nice. That's very, very kind of you to say that. Yeah, I mean, one of the things the Lord spoke to me over the years with regards to business was he showed me that things are actually fully formed already. This is really interesting, and I know that we talk about books and scrolls a lot, and I'm not going to go into that because nearly everyone listening is going to understand about that. It's going to understand already. But what I started to see was that things are actually fully formed. You can actually see the fullness of those sometimes in the spirit or in heaven. And then what that looks like is then you can then piece together what that transition or that breakdown needs to look like and bring the first steps into the now to see the completion of that happen. And I think one of the things that, so let me explain exactly what I mean by that. I had an experience where I moved to a new house, and when I moved to the new house, I was praying, and as I was praying, I said, God, show me what this house is going to look like in a year. I said, show me what it's going to look like in a year. And I went into the spirit and I started to have a look at my house in a year. And I looked into every bedroom. I saw which of my family, I have 2 children, which of my kids would be in which bedroom in a year. Now, at that stage, they weren't in these bedrooms. Which ones would be? Then I saw my outside. I have a garage or a garage that's separate, but actually it's a separate garage to the house. And I saw an office in that garage. Then I saw a particular car that was outside. And I said, God, show me what it's going to look like in a year. Now, none of this stuff had manifested. This is really interesting. So what happened was that I started to lean into that a little bit more. And as I leant into it, I was able to start to implement some of these designs and restructures to my world as a result of what I had already seen a year ahead. Now, that's really interesting. Well, people will say, well, you just saw it and then you made that happen. But what happened was that the alignment and the things that I ended up building and doing actually lent to my life really, really doing much, much better with the positioning of these children in the rooms, the positioning of the office. I ended up building an office in this particular area, and it actually started to really work. And I was like, oh my goodness. And what I realized that I was actually able to lean into God. And what I've been asking, when I said, what does my house look like in a year? What I'd actually been asking, or what I'd actually been doing, is I'd actually been leaning into God's strategy, because he'd never shown me something that isn't going to work. God's strategy for my world, this was just my natural home, to operate at the optimum capacity in terms of my housing arrangement. And it was actually pulling on the wisdom of heaven to see how best to redesign and reconfigure my natural house in order that it would function perfectly. Now, previously to that, the office was in the house. So I want to, so these are the things that I started to realize, is that I can lean into God. When I said, what will it look like in a year? He was actually giving me a blueprint for something that I could implement that would actually see my world function really, really well. And it was something really practical when I went into the house. And I said, okay, what's this going to look like? Now I have everything, and the house now functions in the best way it can. This I'm operating at maximum level right now, and you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so I believe. So then, what I started to realize is you can do this for anything. So you can actually have a look and say, God, will this business look like in a year? And then God says, good, I'm glad you asked. This business in a year will be in New Zealand. This business in a year will be in Montana. This business in a year will have an arm that feeds the babies in Africa. And then what you're starting to do is you're starting to lean into the original blueprint and design, but you're actually looking at more of the end goal, and then you can start to bring that into the now and into the natural. And it's like with business, when people get a blueprint for the business, they say, God, what will be the end goal for this business? How much money will this business end up giving into the kingdom, and where will it give it? See, people don't ask those questions. That's a very, very good question to ask. Because if you ask that,
question, and
what's going to happen? You're going to realign.
I have my clients ask these questions.
That's
we
good.
actually have an exercise where we vision out exactly like, what is your ideal week? How are you spending your day? Who are you spending it with? How many hours are you doing this? What does your team look like? All of this kind of stuff. And we ask for this picture and we write it all out. And then we take it into the business complex in heaven, and we turn it in and we say, show me where this is on the timeline.
Awesome. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's exactly it. And so and I think that is one of the major keys that God wants to introduce people into in this next season, is to understand that you're not limited by the things of the Spirit, aren't limited by natural time. And that's part of how you start to accelerate things as well.
Right.
Because you can accelerate things. The Lord spoke to me and he said, part of your calling you're in now, you're actually 10 years ahead. So with the area of government, he said, you've ushered that in 10 years ahead. Now, he said, what you're doing here, I saw myself doing at 52, and I was doing them at 39.
Nice. I don't know why you look so young. You're so
I'm 41.
wise.
I'm 41 now. I'm so wise, and I'm so young looking. But I was ushering things in early, and I believe that when we live a transcendent lifestyle like that, and that becomes our MO, that becomes the thing that we do before anything else, I believe that we usher things in early, or I believe we can accelerate things really, really profoundly. But then to accelerate them, you have to adhere to the same criteria. So you can't. This is the whole thing. Is if you don't adhere to the criteria that God gives you initially for a particular business or whatever, then you end up losing it. And that's what people don't understand. The grace comes off because people don't stick with the original criteria. I'm saying this within the paradigm of what we're talking about actually mapping things and getting them in the realm of the Spirit. That what happens is a lot of the time we get this hunger and we get this drive and we get this everything. And the Lord's saying, actually, because of your posture right now and the way you're functioning, I'm now releasing this to you. But then when we get it, if our posture changes, we get surprised that, because when you go at particular speed, so say you go onto a freeway, this is a really good way of looking at it in the realm of the Spirit. Say you go onto a freeway, and the freeway is you're allowed to drive at 100 miles an hour, and you ask for acceleration in your business, and the Lord says, okay, in order to do this, you're going to have to go into fifth gear. So you say, but the way that you've been pushing and the way you've been driving in the realm of the Spirit and the way that you've been engaging, you've moved in from fourth gear into fifth gear. So then what happens is that the speed and momentum starts to lift. Then what happens is when we get stuff released to us, sometimes we change the gear down and we stop doing what we were doing at first, which was actually a criteria for us apprehending that next part of the book and actually moving, because the frequency and the speed, that speed and frequency was the only way that part of the business or that part of the kingdom, whatever, was able to function at. We moved the gear down, and then God says, actually, you know what? You can't run at this. Your car isn't allowed in this on this freeway at this low gear, so I'm actually going to move you to the side now. That's like the grace coming on. And then suddenly people go, what happened? I was so blessed and everything. Well, what happened was, it wasn't God. What did you change?
Wow.
And then when you put it back in and you re-lock it in, it's like you move back into fifth gear, and then it starts up again. And that's, I believe, one of the major keys that people in the body of Christ are going to learn in this season, is it's all about adhering to the criteria that God requires us to lean into and to appropriate in order for us to apprehend the fullness of the things that he's spoken over us.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get away with sloppy.
No.
I just, or skating along and just going on default and, just doing the minimum required. I just don't think that's the way. I'm not saying that it's got to be so super difficult. I do believe that we're supposed to be on our throne of rest, and his yoke is easy and burden is light, and there's grace and favor. But there's a level of that discipline that we just can't slack off of anymore. Yeah. So talk to us about timing, because one of the things that you mentioned to me when we had our conversation was that you really felt like May 1st was the time to launch, and so I think God's timing is really everything. And actually, you have a visual on the May 1st thing. You showed me earlier.
I get when I process with people, some of the time, not all of the time, but some of the time, I might get some dates for them, and sometimes those dates are relatively accurate. And when I was speaking to you with regards to when I saw this business intensive over you, I saw specifically I actually got the word Mayday, and Mayday is May 1st. And I felt like it was a double, what do you call it? A double thing. Mayday is a call for help. And I felt like it was a double thing. So I got Mayday in the UK. A lot of the time, Mayday is May 1st. And so I realized that there was this thing, Mayday, and it was nearly like people were calling for help. It's like they were in a place, in a situation, where they were stranded, and they were doing Mayday. And I felt like that was for business people specifically doing this intensive, that some people, I believe that the majority of people that will end up doing it are people that feel like they've got stranded, as it were. They've actually been isolated away from the alignment that God had for them, and they're calling out a Mayday. And this intensive will actually, the Lord will realign them back to the original purpose and design that he had for them in business, or the appropriation of that entrepreneurial thing that he put on them. And I felt like that was it. And as we were talking, just before we were talking, I don't normally bring I have a Samsung charger, and I don't normally bring it, but I felt to bring it this morning, and I thought, I'll bring it. But then I didn't have the right lead to even plug it in, and I just put it on the desk. And it's funny because the number on it is 51. Now it says 5100, but the first letters, but it's 51. And in America, obviously, that's the 1st of May. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, wow, and it was literally in front of my eyes as we were doing it. And it's not functional. It's just sitting here. So that's, again, for me, just another sign that was the right timing in God, that it's a Mayday reality. And I'm not just saying it's just about that, but I do believe that it will help people get unstuck and actually help them come into a place of re-engaging with that beautiful momentum maybe that they had originally as well.
So good. So good. So what are you going to be teaching in this? And this is behind the scenes, you guys, because he and I really haven't talked about it.
No, we haven't. No, but we talked about when we talked about. Look, I felt like I was going to end up doing a session on it, but I felt specifically that it was going to be. So I'll give you a tiny snippet, because I feel it's going to go in 2 parts. But I actually believe that one of the things that I'm being called to do in this season is to help people engage who feel like they're called to speak prophetically into businesses. And so I feel like it says freely you have been given, freely give. I believe that many business people in the body of Christ aren't just going to run their own businesses, but they're actually going to speak prophetically into other businesses too, in conjunction with the business they run. Because I believe that the people of God are actually going to help disciple Christians and non-Christians into the ways of God, especially in the area of business. I believe this is part of God's plan, or part of the original design of what it looks like for us to, in the right sense of the word, overtake the business mountain. Because I believe that the word of the Lord is going to filter through the entire business mountain. And so I believe that one of the ways, it's not just going to be about Daniel's going and speaking to the people at the very top. I believe that it's going to be us being able to disciple businesses in and through, to really come into a place where they are aligned to the original design of God for their lives, but also for that business. And so I believe that one of the things that's going to happen is that people are going to have an opportunity to speak into prophetically into many people with businesses, and speak into the lives of entrepreneurs. And I believe that that is going to be an invitation for many people in business. And so that's part of, it's going to be in two parts, but that's part of what I'm going to be speaking about, is what it looked like for me, how you activate that, how you steward what it is to speak prophetically into businesses, and how you prophetically pastor someone, prophetically disciple somebody in their business. What does that look like? How do you disciple someone in business? And so I'm going to be talking about that.
Oh, beautiful. That'll be really good. And just for the audience, some of you know that I was with Daryl for these last 6 weeks or so. We did a prophetic intensive. And so he was teaching us on how to do prophecy, and how to weigh words, and how to have that discernment to know whose voice we're listening to, and how to deliver it in a way that people will receive what God meant without any flavoring from you. So it's been it was a really good intensive, Daryl. Yeah.
I feel like it's really good. And as you mentioned, the weighing words one, and that session was actually taken by Rachel Weatherly, and it was really interesting because I didn't. We do it as a for myself, Rachel, her husband Todd, and my wife Belinda. We do it as a four faces intensive, prophetic intensive. It used to be called the prophetic intensive with Daryl. And what was really interesting is that when Rachel came on, she started to do the weighing of words. And I feel like it was so key, the weighing of prophecy, and that being a really strong component in the way that we operate, especially in the area of Christian business or spirit-led business, more than any other thing. God's going to make me a billionaire. I'm like, wow, okay, let's weigh that word. Now, I've met many people that said to me, God's going to make me a billionaire. And I can guarantee that God is not going to make them a billionaire. That it's just not going to happen. But yet they had either received a word, or someone said, you're going to be so wealthy, but they don't even pay their taxes. So now I'm not saying that God can't bring levels of transformation, but words have to have our alignment and our agreement. And I think sometimes we've just taken on words as well, because we're so hungry or desperate for the word, or desperate for words, because we actually haven't created a good quiet time and a good devotional time with the Lord, where he speaks to us and gives us our daily bread. So then we look everywhere else for people to feed us with bread and with manna. But the reality is that we can actually get it from his mouth ourselves. Man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord. Luke 4:4, Matthew 4:4. So what I'm saying in that is that when we've drawn things out from people, I think a lot of the time people have actually taken from us soul reads and different things. They've read into things in our situation, given us prophetic words. We've then held those words, but those words actually need to be sifted, and they actually need to be weighed. And that was one of the things that Rachel Weatherly was talking about specifically. And I hadn't even heard great teaching on weighing words before. Isn't that interesting? Heard a little bit, but you think in a prophetic movement, and you would think that as where we are in the world and in the body, you would think that would be one of the primary teachings that we hear, but we don't. And instead we hear words, are you ready for your breakthrough? Are you ready for that? My goodness, those words right now, are you ready for your breakthrough? That is so old wineskin of the prophetic. I'm telling you right now, we are called to engage in the realm of the spirit. We're called to be kings and priests. And if it's, are you ready for your breakthrough? It's just like, for me personally, I feel like those particular words, that they're weak. I feel like there's no substance in them. Are you ready? God's just about to come through. Get ready. Now, I'm not saying God's always going to come through for someone. Right. It's not like that. But I feel like those words don't empower. Now, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I just feel like they don't empower. Are you ready? Get ready. Things are about to shift. And then you go, wow, things are about to shift, but they don't. And they go, but you said it was my breakthrough. And I feel like we're leaning into more a paradigm of what it is to be equipped, to be able to engage in the realm of the spirit, rather than just engaging with the word where we wait for God to bring a breakthrough. Instead, we're actually proactive in engaging our scroll, engaging our mandate, engaging our book, and saying, okay, God, you have spoken this. I choose to align myself to who I am, what you've spoken, to the prophetic promises. I'm going to wage war with those, and I'm actually going to call in. I'm actually going to align, and I'm going to call in my destiny with you, and I'm going to start to really take hold of it. And so instead of just waiting for you to do something.
Wow, so good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look over here and see if we have any comments, since we are going live here. I'm on a different device since I'm doing all of this together. Carolyn Arnold, hello there. Thank you for joining. Okay, so I shared it to multiple groups. I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have kept it all together. All right, that's okay. I won't check. But hello to all of you guys on Kingdom Talks Media as well. And I know that you're there. I'm just not seeing you. And hello to Daryl's crew and all of you guys from Field of Dreams. Okay, so here's my confession right now. You know how people binge watch TV series? Well, I'm binge watching all of the episodes of Field of Dreams teaching.
Oh, good. That's a very good thing to binge watch.
Yeah. So I'm kind of working myself backwards. I'm back to the beginning of March now, since I. But it's
a very good thing. Oh, that's awesome. That's good. And for any of you, we can I'll put a link on as well on my feed for people who want to watch Field of Dreams and get engaged with that.
Yeah. Todd is great, and then I've heard some messages from you as well. So it's just been really good, and he's there's a season that you know how we kind of go through seasons, and it's just the season of what you guys are talking about is really drawing me, and I really feel very connected to the message that you guys are bringing. And when we came into the prophetic intensive, I'm like, I feel drawn to this right now. It's a very timely kind of a thing. Is there anything else that you want to tell the audience about what's the timely thing maybe that people who don't know Field of Dreams or you need to hear right now?
Well, I think it's about alignment to the times and the seasons.
Okay.
And I think that's we're just about to go to New Zealand, and the title of the conference that we're going to be doing in New Zealand is New Times, New Seasons. And this is really about what it looks like to transition, our thinking and our levels of understanding. How do we transition those to line up to the season and times under heaven, really? I mean, that's what this is all about, because it says for everything there is a season and time in Ecclesiastes 3:1, and we need to, in my opinion, and it's more than an opinion, we need to be like the sons of Issachar. We need to know the seasons and times. And to be perfectly honest, and everybody knows this, things changed last year. They really did. So it wasn't,
Really?
and I know that we keep on talking about it, but there isn't a new normal that I believe. We're not coming back to this new normal. It's not going to happen. And so because we're not coming back to this new normal in the way that people think we are, it doesn't exist anymore. And so what the reason I'm saying that is because we keep using the word normal in the new normal. The new normal, and I understand, but what it does is it downplays the shift that's actually really happened. So instead of new normal, I changed the word to reality. Because we're not, because what happens is new normal just means it looks like you are appropriating a few different things, but actually a new reality is that everything's changed.
Yeah, that's good.
Entirely. And so what happens is, and the reason I'm saying that, I hope you guys can understand what I'm saying. I'm saying the way it's framed up, I believe, doesn't give it the level of weight that it requires because of the nature of what's actually happened. So what that means is that there's a new trajectory, that there's a new season and time on the earth. And because of that, the way that we function needs to change. the way that we function needs to change. And for some people, they're in a place of catch up where they're trying to work out what that looks like. But for other people, for other people, they have stuck their head in the sand and they said, no, it make the bad man stop. It's all going to come back to normal. And it's more like an ostrich reality where people have just put their head in the sand. Yeah. And they've said, you know what, I'm not going to engage. I don't want to engage with whatever this looks like. And I'm just going to wait. I'm going to binge watch some TV. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to, go to church. I'm going to do, but I'm not going to allow my internal world to agree with the season and time under heaven, or the season that we're in now. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And so that's the biggest danger for us. If you don't allow your internal world to engage with that reality, that new reality, then you will never line up successfully with the new season and time that we're actually in.
Wow. Okay. So I want to parse that out a little bit, because there is a part of me that is just not accepting all of the fear and the chaos and the he said, she said, and misinformation and it's like, no, I'm not going to participate. I'm just going to stay on the course that God has me. And so there is that level of, I don't know, denial or whatever, of you guys just do you. I'm going to maintain my frequency higher, and just try to do what God has called me to do, and try not to get sucked down into all of the chaos and the fear and the, all of that. So am I, do I have an ostrich complex here? I don't know.
No. I think that keeping that frequency high is really, really important. I think that that's a very important reality, that we have to keep that place of, that frequency high. But I also think that within that, I think it goes a lot deeper than that, because I think what happens is, and I'm going to speak on a reality that people will understand relatively clearly, is that there's this Esther 4:14 reality. For such a time as this, born for such a time as this. And I think if people understand, if you were alive right now, you were born into this season. And therefore, there was an original design, an original mapping, an original plan, an original book designed for you to appropriate, to take hold of, and to administrate in this season.
Right.
And so because of that, if you choose not to engage with the season and time, you can never access the book that was pre-written, or the things that you were organized for you to walk in. In this time. So if you choose not engage with the season and time, you will never engage with part of, in my opinion, part of the ultimate reason that you are here in the first place.
Oh, that's good. That's really
and
good.
And then you can't, just give me just 1 second.
Yeah. Well, guys, are you loving this? This is just amazing. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. He's just so brilliant and bringing so much to the table. And you replay viewers, you will absolutely make sure that you watch all the way from the beginning, because it was really, really good. So I was just thinking there, do you think, well, it's kind of unfair to put you on the spot, but I think that this thought is going around, and so maybe you've already thought about it. And so when we have all of these restrictions and persecution of Christians and free speech and all of this stuff, and maybe it will come to a point, or the Bible says it will come to a point, where we won't be able to buy or sell without the marks and whatever that means. I believe that God is calling us to build these structures and build our capacity for understanding the spirit realm, so that we can literally operate in the spirit realm and see each other and communicate in the spirit realm. So even if our body is locked down, we can still do what God calls us to do. What do you think about that?
So what I think is that there is a reality in this time where things have taken on this new normal. And so because new reality, I just said that I didn't believe that. And so so what I think is that there's a new way of playing. The playing field has changed.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that there have been examples over the years of particular things that we have been that we are able to access and able to walk in. I think that things like transrelocation and moving in the spirit and being able to build things in the spirit, all of these things are particular modalities of functioning as spirit beings that we've actually been invited into, and that some of the time we haven't allowed a level of exploration, a level of development, a level of maturing or strengthening in those particular areas. But I feel like now is very much vital in this time that we start to engage with the potential reality of what that could actually look like. Now, so first of all, I don't believe that everything is going to go in that direction, because I don't think that's real. So I think that, and I'm not saying that you're saying that, I just don't think it is. I don't think that everything is going to be done in this, everything's done here and nothing's done in the natural. That's not real.
Oh yeah, no, that's probably not true. No.
So there is going to be stuff in the natural. All we know is that the season has changed, and we are in a season of war, and we're never not going to be in a season of war again. That's going to be, it's going to be, and anyone that says that we're not in a season of war is in my opinion, wrong. So because of the aggressive, we've always been in seasons of war, since the beginning of time. There's always been but there are particular times on earth where the MO looks different, the posturing looks different, what we clothe ourselves in looks different. And because we've been ushered into that season, I believe over the last couple of years, at least over the last year and a half, there's been a preparation for us to step up and engage in the war in a different way. And I do believe that there has been an invitation in that then to prepare ourselves to engage with the invisible even more so than ever before. And I feel like that's potentially what you're talking about, is this engaging in the realm because of what may take place and what may happen.
Right.
Because yes, there is a reality that everything in this is real. Everything in this is real. Now, our interpretation sometimes isn't necessarily right, but everything in it is real, and there are going to be things that we are required to walk through, because it says that because it says this. But it also, the invitation, so even though we're going to walk through things that aren't necessarily, I believe for some people, very pleasant, the invitation to engage in the invisible and to have that as our primary focus, and to have that as the primary way that we engage in this world, that invitation is always there. And so he's always saying, come up here and I will show you what must take place. Come up here and I'll teach you how to engage in this place so that you can change this place. And that invitation stands and will never change.
Right. Okay. Very good. That's excellent. Well, thank you so much. Wow. This is really good. Okay. So Quantum Capacity Business Challenge. You can go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com and click on the coaching button, and it's in there, or just go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com/capacity to get on the free, open to the public Zoom call on Saturday, May 1st. And this is in the US time. If we need to repeat it for Aussies, if there's a whole bunch of people interested, we absolutely will. I just need to know about that. But for right now, it is going to be 10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday, May 1st. And you go to spiritcenteredbusiness.com/capacity to register for that Zoom call. And that is the official kickoff. And then we have a week of prep, buying the right wine that you want for your communion, getting your journal, getting your water bottle or whatever, because we are going to be drinking the water that God calls us to, living water. So we're going to be flushing our systems out with that. Helps us think better too. So we're going to be doing a lot of that stuff and telling everybody how it's going to roll and really giving everybody the breakdown of what's going on that Zoom call. So thank you again, Daryl. I so
You're very
appreciate you.
welcome.
How
You're very
can
welcome.
people get a hold of you? I will definitely put it in the show notes, but is it Four Faces Ministry or?
Yeah. I do session bookings on Four Faces Ministries, and then obviously you guys can go on Field of Dreams and hear from myself, Todd, Rachel, Belinda, and the team at Field of Dreams.
All right, very good, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. So thank you once again, Daryl.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's just, I'm so glad that you're on, and then I'm just over the moon that you're working with me on this business intensive. This is going to be absolutely amazing. We're going to just transform lives. Oh, gosh. Okay. So for the live audience, we are going to say ciao for now. Until next time, stay spirit-centered. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next stage of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles, and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.